Hey guys, we are back. And one of the things we love to do is read up about what's going on in the industry. And there is a great new blog for Revolt TV, called Kickin Facts. And Gabby, there's two articles actually that we want to talk about today. So why don't you introduce that to the people?
Yeah, so as you know, we like to do our research here and be very informed so that we can then inform you guys. I think we're doing our due diligence on our end. I follow a lot of sneaker people. I love the culture and I also love the community. So that's something that's important to differentiate is that culture then drives community. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. But personally, it's a passion of mine to connect with people and sneakerheads specifically. And that's what I love about social media that are speaking the truth in the industry, not just about what's going on, but about social justice as it relates to sneakers, as it relates to hip hop culture. And I always like to reach out to people and make connections with them. So I love the new Kickin Facts pieces that have been coming out. There's a new article every 2 weeks. Guys, follow it if you don't already. We'll put links to everything in our description. But Jazzerai Allen-Lord, she is a dope chick. And this is her column. This is her baby. And what I love about her is that she keeps it real. She tells it like it is. And she has the hard conversations. And sure, she puts them to the point. Like, anyone is on blast if they deserve to be on blast. And I respect people like that who speak it like it is. I actually DM'd her after I saw the first piece and read the second one because of it. And I was like, thank you for just keeping it real. And I know this is going to stem our discussion about where sneaker culture came from and the magic behind it. We talked a little bit about the magic of sneakers in our first segment today. But how does that culture evolve? How does it change? Where does it come from? And why it's important to recognize where we came from. And so Jazz does a great description of that in both stories, talking about, in the most recent piece, influencers and how they influence the culture, whether they're Black or they're white, and how they can use that platform. And then the original piece, which I recommend every single one of you who is watching, again, link below in our video, check out the article. It talks about where sneaker culture really came from and how it's changed and evolved today and whether or not that's a good thing. And she, like I said, keeps it real. What do you
Yeah.
think?
I loved it. I thought it was an excellent piece. You actually linked it to me, sent it to me via text, and I was like, all right, cool. Now she's a follow, and I'm looking forward to this column. It's something we've talked about on a few episodes in the past. It is something that I understand, right? And we talked about it at the top of today's show. The idea of when something becomes embraced or taken over by the mainstream, right? And just for a clarification purpose, when I say mainstream, what I'm talking about is the larger white population, right? Because just let's look at demographics in the United States. Like Black people only make up 11, 12% of the population, somewhere in there, right? The majority of the population is white people. Like that's where the bulk of the people that live in this country are. So when I say mainstream, that's what I mean. And yes, sneaker culture started as a version of hip hop culture and then basketball and all of those things, which again is part of Black culture. It then moved its way out into the mainstream when suburban kids in and around the New York City area were like, oh, what's going on here? And it filtered and slowly made its way out to the burbs. And her concern is, in that first piece, is that now its price point is making being a part of that culture ubiquitous so that everybody can be a part of. And by the way, I want to be clear, inclusivity is what we're all about, and we want everyone to be a part of it, but not inclusivity at the expense of the originators and people who started it, right? It's not about let's make it for everybody, but forget where it came from and cut off the roots. And that's what her concern is, right? Is this idea of we're forgetting the originators and who started this whole thing, and we're making it now hard for, kids and young Black kids to still be involved in this culture. And it reminded me, and I texted you about this, the movie Brown Sugar, right? Starring one of my favorites, Sanaa Lathan, and Taye Diggs. And it's a love letter to hip hop. Obviously, it's a rom-com about Sanaa Lathan's character and Taye Diggs' character, again, finding love. But in one of the scenes where because she narrates it, she says, hip hop used to be this personal thing to you, but then it went mainstream, right? And that is sort of the dichotomy and the tension that's at place here for a lot of OG sneakerheads, right? It's like, this was a thing that was very personal to me. Now it is everywhere. We talked about just before, again, at the top of the show, so many different collaborations and drops, right? It's like there's 78 different versions of ones. And for a lot of people, that makes them feel some kind of way. It's like, yo, like, what are we even doing out here? And again, so that's the one side. And the brand side is like, hey man, We're out here trying to make this money, right? So they're like, we're going to put a lot of stuff out there. So the question we have to ask ourselves is, again, who can we serve everybody? Can we keep it inclusive? Yes, I think we can, but we cannot forget about the originators and again, where it started and making this stuff accessible still to young people who are in urban communities.
Yes, and I agree with you 100%. I mean, I think right now, sneaker culture and the hype beast culture is money driven. And Jazz talks about that in the piece. And I think very eloquently, she says that, you know, back in the day, you used to wait online. There was something magical about getting that pair, getting your hands on it. Even if you enter a raffle, you do it in a store. And obviously, we're in very unique times right now. But even the online raffle, it still has a little bit of that mystique. But when a pair is either overpriced, like when we talked about your hair, that I was like, I don't know if for that price it's worth it. Mm-hmm. Even at retail, some of these are being priced out, and it's that's where we lose the accessibility. And then the resale market, you know, basically says if you have enough money, you can be cool. Like I could buy Travis Scott's tomorrow if I have $3,000 sitting in my bank account that, you know, isn't going to, you know, rent important things. Like, don't get me wrong, I love me some Travis Scott, but like, nah, that's gonna be a no for me. And you know, I always talk about the Royal Toe ones or the Wave Runners. Wave Runners are a pair that I've wanted for a while, the original Yeezys that came out. And I recently sold a pair of sneakers. And even though I had the money, mm-hmm. I made a very nice profit on these sneakers. I'm trying to pare down my collection mm-hmm. and really think about what I'm wearing. I couldn't rationalize spending the money even though I had it.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think not a lot of people think that way, but I wish we could go back and be in a world where it has that uniqueness, that individuality. Yeah. And I think because of that, and because we can just throw money at things now, and that's our new culture, new normal, you lose that individuality even though there are more pairs than ever.
Yeah, it's tough. I think you're right on. So much of it is, again, is what you talked about, the idea of waiting online, and people still do wait online now, but now with people who you can buy bots, and you can just, if you have enough credit card, enough limit on your credit card, you buy 8, 9, 10 pairs of exclusive drops. Like, you know, the Virgil Ablohs, we always talk about that collaboration. There's so many that, you know, they don't make enough of them. I mean, the ones go for what, to almost $2,000 on StockX in the secondary market. And it's because capitalism is what drives so much of this, right? This idea of making money, it takes away some of the artistic and the what my shoe says about us, and people are just out here driven to make dollars off of it, right? It's this idea of, you know, creating an ingenuity versus like capitalizing off of something that already exists, and how can I make money off of it, right? And that's sort of the story of the world, right? And it's what we are. We have made less and less sort of inventions and created things, much as though we've remixed so many stuff, right? Like that's really sort of what's happened. It's remixing everything and using technology to, you know, automate, and how can we do it fast? How can we do more of it, right? And in some ways it's good, but in a lot of ways it's not so good, which is what we're seeing. And I think a lot of people struggle with that within the sneaker community. So what you find now, and shout out to like Sneaker Galactus, who we know, you know, what Chad will do is he'll still try to find and get like the pairs that come out, but he'll look and identify PEs, right? Player exclusives, or different kinds of shoes that now you're still trying to get that holy grail, because those things those are rare, right? And I think that's part of it. The scarcity and rarity. Do we still have enough of those? And the PEs, those are those, right? Like, you know, one of the ones I love are the KD Scrooge McDucks. I mean, those are great. And I think the only pair I've seen are the ones he wore on that Christmas Day game at Golden State. Like, I don't know if any other pair exists. Like, and so that is like something, good luck, right? You're never going to get that. But, you know, it's those types of things. And I just, it's a larger conversation really, though, about the world and how we are now setting the point where money and how much of it you have dictates whether or not you can get something, right? Like, and that's just, yes, I know that's basically like how goods and commerce works. Yes, thank you. I know economics 101, but things like sneakers and art and that sort of thing, right? We're pricing it out. It's the same. I mean, look at gyms and look at, you know, I mean, how much does a Peloton cycle cost, right? Those kinds of things. They set it to a bar where it's like only certain people can get access to this. Everybody else?
I mean, I get that. I think, you know, you and I talk a lot offline about working smarter, not harder. And I'm all about that. I know that's like a PR phrase that they use me in every industry now to justify things like layoffs and making sure that people are productive. And, we throw these phrases around, and I think like nobody works smarter and not harder than the Yeezy, and I know my friend Preet and I have talked about this. How is the Yeezy the demise of sneaker culture? Is it? I don't know. And we'll save that for another episode. But like every other week, there's a new Yeezy coming out. When Adidas came out with the NMD R1s at first, when they were that Flyknit kind of material, it felt like you were wearing a sweater. They were so hard to get your hands on that they became rare, and now they have them all the time. And they don't really go back to that exclusive launch model. I think they did a super cool collab with Star Wars Kick. Like the Night Joggers were really, really dope, but they didn't sell. And I think because they weren't putting marketing dollars behind it, there's a ton of people who are Star Wars fans out there that I was surprised to see those go on sale at one point, because I mean, they were really dope. But because we're in such a mass consumption, work smarter, not harder, it takes away the personality, the uniqueness. That's why I think we're seeing an influx of customs. And we talk about that all the time. Because you can pick and choose what you want, you don't feel like everyone is wearing them all the time. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love ones, but I don't go after every Air Jordan 1 that comes out because it ain't my bag.
Right.
And that's okay. But that's why you now see them everywhere, which then it's this awful cycle that we're in. It drives up the price and drives up the demand, because now everyone feels like they can have them. And I know I'm speaking only for myself, but I know there's other sneakerheads out there, or maybe people who don't consider themselves sneakerheads that just really like kicks, that don't even want a pair of Yeezys anymore because it has that same stigma, or other pairs. There's certain Jordans that they do too, you know?
I'm with you.
I love them, and I think it's cool to like what you like no matter what. At the end of the day, that's what we're all about. But it definitely has changed the culture.
I mean, that's the reality, right? The reality of it is that the sneaker culture is and has changed. And the question is, in its evolution, where is it going, right? But I think you gave me an idea. When we're allowed out of, house arrest or quarantine, I should say, we got to go. I think we should go to, Nike, Puma, Adidas, maybe New Balance. We'll go to those 4. We'll see if they'll make us custom kicks just for us. Like,
do I get to take you shopping? Is this happening right
no,
now,
I mean,
Christmas?
No, I mean, we go to the companies themselves. Like, we'll go up and we'll like, hey, we want you to make us a pair of custom kicks.
I was like, the car's already started.
We got to fly to Oregon, although I don't know when we're getting on a plane again, but that's for another day. Yeah, that's for another day. But stay tuned, guys. We're gonna do Cop or Drop coming up next.